Hi everybody, it's Mark J. Ryan, and I'm here to talk to you about an incredible movie that I saw last night as a matter of fact, called Inception. This has to be one of the best movies, if not the best movie I've ever seen. It had so many elements of what makes up a good movie. What really excited me though was the amount of hypnosis and NLP that was used in that. Now, for those of you that know about hypnosis from stage hypnosis, this is a little bit different on what he was using. And NLP means neuro-linguistic programming, which is a type of processing of studying successful people and how they think and how they change and how they shift in their feelings, their emotions, their behavior to more of what they want to do. It's been going on since the 70s. It's an incredible technology mixed together with hypnosis. This movie actually used hypnotic processes, NLP processes throughout it. And what I want to do is take you through a series of short videos to tell you a little bit about how that was used in a simple manner. And then if you want to, we can advance more into depth of this. So people that see the movie, one of the things that they talk about is the shift in the feelings they have within themselves. This movie comes to you, and as you're watching it, it is taking you through a hypnotic process. It is taking you through a process of going deep inside of yourself to some old healings and wounds, some of the stuff that I deal with Ho'oponopono, which is an ancient Hawaiian healing art, deal with what they call the inner child, which is this part of you that's been around since you've been a child that's running a lot of your programs and patterns. When you as an adult want to go in and you want to make a change or make a shift, and it's hard to do, and you know what you want to do, but yet something stops in your body, usually it's that what we call the inner child. And this movie went just fantastic processing into dealing with that inner child. If you haven't seen the movie, I would recommend that you probably turn this off right now, because I'm going to go into different parts of the movie that might be a spoiler for you if you haven't seen it. For those of you who have, stay with me on this. Now, there was a certain part of the movie where he got to where he opened the safe and he got in and found out what the safe was, and they were going into his unconscious mind and dealing with a younger part of him that had made a decision about his father that stayed with him until that time in life. And the movie was about knowing that if this character kept that feeling and had that same thought about his father and that feeling of his inner child, that it would take the world in a bad direction. But if they could get in there to his unconscious mind, shift that around, that they could take the world into a much better direction. And that's what the Japanese guy was doing. Sato, I believe his name was to say, let's get into his unconscious mind, his subconscious mind, at such a deep level that it will make changes that will affect the world, because he owned, what, a conglomerate of oil companies that made him one of the most powerful countries on its own, just from the oil companies that he owned. So what is the hypnotic process? How did he use hypnosis and NLP to get in there? The first thing we're going to talk about is what they call embedded metaphors. And embedded metaphors is the idea of starting to tell one story. And Milton Erickson, who was, in my opinion, the world's greatest hypnotist ever and healer using hypnosis, was a medical professional who had polio most of his life. He started off as a doctor, then went to psychiatrist, then got into hypnosis, and the rest of his life he used hypnosis because it worked so well with healing of people. And what he would do is he would start to tell a story. And partway through the story, he'd start to tell another story. And then partway through that story, he'd start to tell another story. And then partway through that one, he'd tell another story, and so on. And then within little elements, there could be offshoots of a story within a story within a story. But then he would come back. So let's imagine that this, you're coming down, you start a story, and you stop it. And then you continue with another story, and you continue with another story. This is a trance. U is what they call it, U trance. And what this does is, the deeper as you get down here is the depth of the trance that you're going into. And what happens is when you start to tell a story and stop, and then you tell another story and stop, and then you tell another story and stop, what happens is you start to go deeper and deeper into a trance. So that part of the movie where he had all these different stories, these embedded metaphors, one in front of another in front of another, and they were all going to a culmination point of, will he get to that unconscious? Will he open that safe in time? Will he get the message? Will he get the learning at a critical time? This is where most of the work is done in hypnosis with people. We take them down into trances. Some trances, you're getting tired, you're getting sleepy now. Other trances could be indirect suggestion. It could be embedded metaphors. To me, the powerful ones are when you start to tell stories, and then a story within a story within a story. Now, So you're taking it all the way down to the bottom, and then what happens is you begin to close the loop. So the story that was over here, you finish here. The story was at that level, you finish here. The story that was at that level, you finish here, and so on all the way up. And if you notice, there was a point where he healed his inner child here. And we still don't know if this was a dream of Cobb, the whole thing was a dream of Cobb, or there were multiple inner child things going on. But isn't it funny that when we come back around here, before the end of the movie, he goes in and starts healing his inner child with his inner children, feeling safe and secure with that. So what he did was then close the loops up as they started coming up. So when they hit the water, so to speak, it was a reminder to come up to the next level. That's what we do in hypnosis. We bring them to a certain level, and then we give them little reminders on the way back of the other level that we were at, and then another level that we're at, and another level until we come back out of the trance. And then we start to see the thing that happened with Sato at the end of the movie with the top. And what that does is it closes the loop. At an unconscious level, when you've started with the story here, the Sato story of the top spin, and then you end with the Sato story here, this story opens, a bunch of other stories open and then close, and then this story closes. What happens is this is kind of like one whole element with this way down deep in the unconscious mind. And what this does is it creates a situation and kind of creates an amnesia. You see people going up on stage and they get hypnotized and they come off, and you say they were hypnotized, and they're going, I wasn't hypnotized. It isn't that they don't remember at some level of their unconscious mind. Just like with dreams, when you come up out of a dream, a lot of times you remember for a little bit, but then after a few minutes you don't remember at all. Same type thing happens with this kind of amazing trance that he did, is that he starts off with a story, goes through all different kinds of stories and starts closing them up, comes up to this top one. And then what happens is it's like a seed. It closes it off, and it creates an amnesia, a forgetting, so to speak, where there's certain parts of the movie, and unless you get reminded, you go, oh yeah, okay, I remember that. But at other times you don't remember, because this is going down into the psyche, and it gives it a chance to germinate. So without you going like a scab, if somebody's got a scab on their arm or on their leg or something, and you go and you start picking it, it never gets a chance to heal. Well, our mind goes in and starts picking at stuff. It picks at stuff. It sees it and says, ooh, what's this? But if we leave it down here in our unconscious without our mind knowing, by creating the amnesic effect, this thing can start to percolate. The reason I like the movie, it's a beautiful story. It's a healing story. And what it does is it creates a seed of healing for everybody that watches it, because you become the point of view. You become the person. You become Cobb, so to speak, the one that's dreaming this dream. And it's a beautiful way. What we'll do is we'll talk a little bit more in the future about some other hypnotic effects that begin to happen through taking people through this process and explaining it. Hope you enjoyed it. Come back, look at part 2 and 3, and we'll talk a little bit more. If you like that, ask questions, make suggestions, and we can go through a whole course of teaching how hypnosis works, how it works in the movies, how it works in TV. I can promise you every professional athlete has an NLP coach or hypnotic coach. All Hollywood studios have people that are directing them to say, what's the best way to use this to get deep into the unconscious mind? Some are nefarious. Some are not the best ways of getting into the unconscious mind. This was a great way of getting into the unconscious mind, this movie and what it did. So pretty well every business, top executives, all have hypnosis and NLP coaches, directing them on how to make public images, how to make movies, how to improve their golf game, how to improve their basketball game. I don't care what it is, somehow, some way, most professionals know about hypnosis and NLP, and it's not that old-fashioned stage hypnosis game. It's a very advanced game that the most professional people in the world are using to advance and become successful. If you'd like, I can start to teach you how this works. I've been doing it for over 24 years. Check out my site at www.markjryan.com. Thanks. We'll see you in segment 2.